and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Out-of-date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair, the world's lightest wheelchair, is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Out-of-date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Good evening, Johnson County. Welcome to the Breakdown. I'm your host, Greg Cooper. This is going to be a new weekly show where we're breaking down local politics. We're mainly going to focus on school districts and city councils. And today is an election day recap. Saturday was an election day. Got over a troubled time in the Johnson County here, and the results are in. Campaigns are over. The dust has settled, and the winners and losers are known. It is first and foremost a time to heal. Elections get ugly. They're nasty, heated debates and disagreements. But what's really uncomfortable is when the debates begin to focus on who's raising concerns as opposed to what the concerns are. This election cycle was especially brutal in some communities, with the focus often being diverted away from the issues and placed on people. Intent, motive, personal gain, or loss often overshadowed some of the issues, and that behavior only serves to distract. All of us need to now work together to find common ground, collectively begin to solve some of these complex and dynamic problems in our local communities. Everyone, me included, is at fault of this. Moving forward, I hope we can all be better humans. That being said, today we're going to be joined by Kayla Lane and Scott Yarbrough. Kayla Lane is on her way here, running late behind the train in Joshua, and both are from Godley. They've both been recent guests and were giving us an update on their campaign, and they both unseated well-entrenched incumbents. They both will be brand new to representative government, and both must work in what appears to unfortunately be a very fractured community, and their work is cut out for them. We're going to be discussing the campaign during the voting period up to Election Day, how the response has been since the vote totals came in for them, and most importantly, what they expect to do once the votes are canvassed and they're sworn in, and how they hit the road running. And during their terms, 2 years for Mr. Yarbrough and 3 years for Kayla Lane, what they plan to accomplish in the short term, medium, and long term as their time. Scott, welcome. How you doing, buddy?
Appreciate you. Doing well.
You hanging in there?
Oh, yeah.
getting caught up on some sleep?
You
I know you were
betcha.
busy. Yeah.
You betcha.
So you were here a little over a week ago, I believe, and talking about, and it seemed like the campaign was going good. How did it wind down? I know you were busy with probably a lot of blisters on your feet.
Yeah, I stayed walking the blocks even up to Friday afternoon. I was on the street, trying to. I got 10 votes that day. So
Nice.
if people came out and voted and whatnot, but they still opened their doors to me, and
good.
I got to meet some people, lots of people, and yeah, I was, I didn't want to lose.
And you know what? You put the work in. For those that aren't aware of what happened in Little Godley, 10 candidates running for 4 seats, and Godley doesn't have places. So Scott was one of 10 total candidates running against a couple incumbents and a lot of newcomers in a city that has basically fallen apart over the last 8 months with some of the previous management.
Been taken apart.
And purposely. And you went to numerous campaign events.
Mm-hmm.
You went to numerous places where you opened yourself up to the public
to
be asked questions.
That was rough.
Well, and you know what it was? Do you think for people potentially in the future thinking of running, do you think that benefited you because you put yourself out there?
It does. You've got to do it. I mean, you got to get out there, and you got to get out there, and you got to talk about yourself, and you got to talk, and you have to be able to answer questions. What do you want to do? Because people are, when you vote, I mean, when I go to vote for somebody, I want to know, what are you going to do with my vote? It's not about whether I like you or not. It's about what are you going to do with my vote? So you have to learn how to say that. You have to learn how to build something out. If you're not there to do anything, then why go? So have a plan, something that you want to do in the city or wherever you're going, and then build out your plan and try to sell it to the people and see if the people respond.
Well, and it's funny you bring up a kind of like a popularity contest, and a lot of people get wrapped up in voting for, this is a nice guy, this is a nice girl, and it becomes a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And people really owe it to their communities to do due diligence in seeing who is capable, who has the ability to actually move the community forward more so than a popularity contest.
They do, but when nobody's talking, like in this campaign, there was nobody talking hardly. Nobody was talking.
Sure.
Then it's hard. It's hard for the voter to. I mean, I knocked on many doors, and everybody was saying, "What is? How come nobody else has come to see me? Why are you and Kayla and Nova the only ones that are coming out here knocking on my door? Who are these other people? And I'm like, I can't tell you, brother."
Absolutely. And here's Miss Lane, got stuck behind the train in Joshua here, huh?
Yes.
Absolutely. That thing will get you every now and then. It pauses and takes longer, but welcome.
Thank you.
You missed our little opening here, but congratulations on your well-deserved and hard-earned victory.
Thank you.
And
walking the streets with 8 months pregnant. Good grief, man. She was rocking and rolling.
Anybody wants to know anyone's resolve, I think the day before you gave birth to your beautiful daughter, who's here with us today, you were block walking, knocking on doors,
Yes.
telling people what you were going to do for the ISD. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've talked to Scott, and you've been on the show before. And the last time you were here, we were just getting ready to go into elections. So we're getting caught up on how did the early voting up to election day go, and how did that last piece work? And do you feel that you ran against 4 for 2 open seats? 2 of you were fairly active in the community, and 2 people chose to really not do any work. How do you feel? Do you feel that you're obviously you got elected, but do you feel your effort paid off? And could you give any advice on what you did right, wrong, and stuff like that?
I really do think it paid off. One thing I keep getting messages that, thank God I finally have someone who will listen to me on the school board. So I really think that I was able to bridge a gap. And I do think that block walking, as Scott said, really helped people putting a name to the face and just seeing that I'm reachable, I'm personable. I like to talk to people. I like to answer questions. And I do think that that gave me a lot more accountability and credibility with the community. And I also noticed when I was poll greeting that I had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I just voted for you." And they were people I honestly hadn't talked to before and didn't know. But I do think that just putting myself out there and being available and open and honest and not afraid to answer questions or to talk to the public really helped them to see that we were not just a person behind a podium, but really out there in the community.
And you were block walking against a substantial amount of block walkers that were pro bond, not from the community. So you had some block walking opposition, in fact,
Yes.
which you and Miss Olson. Fortunately, Miss Olson wasn't as fortunate as you, but it was awesome to see both of you guys doing that. I've spent a lot of my life defending some of the rights we have and people taken for granted. It's just sad to see. And it really hurts when we've had people in representative government that were watching and they can't come out and say, "Hey, I've done A, B, and C, and D to improve this community." That's a very telling sign. And I want to thank both of you for two things. First, going through what you know is going to be HELL in regards to how you're going to be treated, because not everybody gets along, but then actually going there and standing in front of people and listening to what they have to say and not hiding behind. So thank you very much for that, you guys. How does it feel that you won? How did the news get broken to you? How did you hear about it? I'm still waiting for Godley ISD to announce the results. Maybe there's some late night ballot box stuffing going on that we're not aware of. But how did you guys find out? Tell us that story, Scott.
Well, someone said that they were going to live stream it. When I ran years ago, I don't think they did that. So I guess they had real time. I don't know what they do now, but I was expecting, to not hear anything until Tuesday or something, but it just came right then, bam. And so I think I don't remember. Oh, wait, I think it was D is one that I heard from. He's
on tar. I don't know where he gets his stuff, but he's always quick to the game.
He sure is. But yeah, he messaged me and he said, "Oh, they got early voting totals in." So I looked at that and that looked pretty good. And then the finals came in and it was like, wow, couldn't believe the bond. Smack down.
Yeah.
There was a bond to fire, man.
Yeah, it was. And we'll talk about that later because wow, what a showing with that. But Kayla, how did I was in a marriage conference with people from my church and my phone was vibrating in my pocket and I'm like, "Oh, what does this mean?" Because I knew it was around the time and I had to wait quite a while to check. But Kayla, how did you
yeah, I wasn't actually expecting to find out that early because last year I didn't find out until the ISD posted their totals, and it was a few hours after the polls closed. So I wasn't even checking my phone, and I was actually at dinner with my family, and Marcy Galley sent me a text message and said that you won, and I'm like, "What?" So she sent the link, and I pulled it up, and honestly, I just was in shock, and I was just so grateful to be trusted with that. And then I could not believe the bond numbers. I was completely in shock. I really hope that the district pays attention. That is a very clear message that people are struggling to pay their bills, and we need to really rein in the spending and be more conservative with our next bond.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that in segment 2 and how to move forward because that's going to come across your desk over the next few years. There's no question. And that needs to be addressed. So now we're going to have some canvassing here. They'll canvass this, and then you guys will have an election at some point where you're going to be sworn in and then off and running. Scott, I want to thank you. I attend most, either virtually or in person, most of the city council meetings. And you were going to meetings long before you ever thought about running. You were involved with that. I saw you there. And you began to speak out at with some of your concerns well before the election was ever called. A lot of people jump in last minute. It's like, oh, this is the cool kid thing to do. and it was good to see somebody involved. And Kayla, you've been involved for years, but so both of you are well versed in what's been going on. Scott, where do you think you need to start?
Employees.
Okay. Who's number one? What positions need to be filled there?
City administrator, I think, is first. We the last council meeting was on Saturday. You were there when there was another incident, and so
Yes, there was.
Wow. So anyway, yeah, we need employees. We got to get some employees in there and get some folks going, you know, and get this show on the road. We're going to be probably somewhere around 7 months behind after everything plays out for no reason whatsoever.
Well, and I agree. And what people don't understand is when you shut something down, when you start it up again, you still have the day-to-day operations. So to get caught up, it's not like it's one for one catch up.
Right.
It's magnified. And watching the mayor basically just roadblock after roadblock, speed bump after speed bump to delay deliberately the most easiest thing to do, which was just get people there to get the city running. Yeah. It was ridiculously frustrating, and I can't imagine how difficult it's going to be for the people that go in there. And and it sounds like you guys have some applicants to consider. Yeah. There's people that want to go to work there.
Yeah.
It's
thankfully.
Yes. And to watch it be shut down for as long as it can, it's terrible. This Godley deserves
no excuse.
Just much better representation. And Kayla, you're in a little different dynamic. You're the only non-incumbent that's going to be there, and they're pretty unified there. And you have some different ideas. How do you, where Scott is coming in with basically a more new than existing crew, which is one dynamic. Yeah, you do. Kayla, you're coming in and you're gonna have a different type of battle ahead of you. And how do you plan on negotiating I don't want to say necessarily difficulties, but that little bit of a dynamic where you have a united school board, you ran against how they're operating stuff. How do you plan on diving into that?
It's kind of a loaded question, but honestly, I did find out from a few other school districts, from some other people who have served on their boards who face the same dilemma that I'm facing, kind of coming in as I don't want to say outsider, but a little bit of an outsider. You know, someone who hasn't been there for one or more terms. And so I really plan on talking with them and getting some ideas on, you know, how to jump right in with both feet and make that work. But for me, I just really would love to see for the public speaking portion of the meetings to be more open. And I would love to take a look at the budget and see what I could suggest that we trim off of it. I would love to see what we're paying teachers, you know, from our last vouchery, if that's still helping our teachers be paid at a rate that matches surrounding districts like it did at that time. And I would love to see teachers paid more. I would love to see the budget really trimmed down and a focus on priorities.
Sure. It's funny you bring up public speaking. For those that don't know, Godley ISD School Board has chosen to implement a local policy called BED Local. And traditionally, government is supposed to be conducted in the open, and it's for the people, by the people, as Scott has said many times, to steal your quote. And just about every city council, school board meeting locally, you can walk into, and if you have a problem, if your child is being bullied and you want to go into your school board meeting and you want to speak on that and ask your school board to look at that, you can do that. And you have a time period to do that. Godley ISD has made a conscious decision to remove the ability for its public to go in and speak about something unless they print it on the agenda. So they control and filter what their elected representatives. And it's a complete, excuse my French, it's a bastardization of representative government. They're using something that's in place to prevent filibusters when you have massive amounts of of people wanting to speak, because you have to have some limits, but it's not meant to be used when you have a small amount of people that want to communicate. And it's BED local, and they need to fix that. And it's awesome you bring that up and recognize that, because it's a huge, huge problem. And the budget thing too. And so Scott, some of the administrator spots. So you have an administrator spot to fill. You have a court clerk. So does anybody even know how court's being conducted right now? Is it being conducted? Is it going through Johnson County? So for the listeners out there, certain violations, permit violations, fines, tickets, and stuff can be held locally in Godley. And there's a court clerk, and they bring in a judge, and they hold a small municipal court there, and they don't have the employees to do that. I don't know how they're doing it. And so I don't know if these are getting thrown out. I don't know if they're postponed, but that's another dynamic that, and the amount of money with some of this stuff that the city's potentially losing in revenue has got to be astronomical.
Well, it's, I mean, I haven't seen anybody being pulled over for a ticket in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. But I just don't know.
Yeah. And that's,
I'm assuming
that's
something is happening, but whatever it is, maybe they're contracting it out to the county or something. I don't know. But.
So yeah, that's an interesting thing. And then the attorney, there seems to be a lot of hostility between the city attorney so to recap, the city attorney, and this is, and if I misquote, please correct me, but the city attorney was appointed by the mayor, who admitted to not looking at the resume and failed to allow the council to confirm. Or did the council actually end up confirming? But
the council ended up confirming after Jennifer Thompson was arrested.
Oh, that's right.
So what happened was the mayor knew he was going to lose that vote because, I mean, the council was looking for a more professional approach, wanted to see some resumes, wanted to talk to people, but the mayor wasn't going to have that. No, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to, I'm running the show here. And that's what he did. And so he arrested Jennifer that night on that vote. And that was it. I wish Roger and Michael hadn't even shown up. I wish they had just not even come to the meeting. But anyway, they did. It happened. Nobody could have ever thought that was going to happen. I mean,
it was 15, 20 minutes before she walked in. So,
no one thought that. That shocked everybody. And then boom, he cast the tying vote. And there you go. Now the roadblock begins.
So to recap that, a city council member who was asking some pretty pointed questions about some where some money's going, what things are being spent on, how do you account for stuff, do we need to look closer at some of this, basically had some pretty fair questions about taxpayer money and how it's being spent. Uncovered
the lack of an asset inventory list, for goodness sake.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a fire truck parked by Chris's sourdough bread house over there in Godley.
Yeah.
And it's not being used by the fire department,
Yeah. Definitely some questions. But so walking into the meeting, Ms. Thompson was arrested for altering a document that, come to find out, Texas Municipal League had advised her it was in her right to do this. And literally almost immediately, the district attorney, county attorney, and everybody washed their hands of moving forward with that.
Laughed it out. No, we're not.
Absolutely.
No, this is not us. We're not doing this. Yeah.
And so I was in law enforcement for about 10 years, and it was in another state. And I can tell you, it is not normal to drop stuff that quick. Stuff gets dropped before it goes to trial because they're hoping people will take a plea, and there's no reason to drop it until there's skin in the game. Watching it drop that quick is very telling.
Yeah, they weren't going to touch it.
Yeah. And the manipulation of that for this was a class A misdemeanor, and it was for basically a paper issue, and to wait in front of City Hall to arrest her, it was one of the most disgusting abuses of power I've ever seen.
There's a word for that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then he washed his hands and absolved himself of this and says he had no knowledge of it.
He lied right there. Both he and Wyatt Hamilton and Finlay.
Yep.
The attorney lied right there and said, no, it was the county that did it. Well, bull.
Yeah.
It was not the county that did it.
Yeah.
And, I had a video about it. So
Yeah, come to
everyone
find
hates my videos.
come to find out, unbelievable.
Well, I actually had asked the mayor at the end of that meeting via a point of order to drop the charges.
Yes, you did.
And that's when he claimed that we have nothing to do with it.
That's right.
That's
That's exactly right.
That's right. Miss Lane stood up and called them out on things they were doing improperly, which is very hard to do because there's decorum issues and things like that and stood up and stood her ground, and he absolved himself of any knowledge of that, and come to find out that was absolutely a lie. And really sad, and I hope she's doing the best, because she has been drugged through the ringer for basically asking questions about what is being used with taxpayer resources. And Godley's a unique community. It's a small community. It has a lot of history, and a lot of people have lived there for a long time. And I don't know, and I haven't been involved with Godley too long, and I don't know if the people that have lived there for an extended period of time are so comfortable and so trusting that they just absolve any amount of potential fault from their neighbors. But if I had lived in Godley for a long time and what was going on, I want my darn city cleared. My neighbors, these individuals who have been running the city, they did not do this. I want their names cleared. I want my city cleared. Yeah. And what you see old time people that have businesses in town coming out that you never see at meetings. And all of a sudden, I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are, have come out and says, well, we don't think you need to look behind the books. We think that's a misuse of taxpayer money. And we don't think you need to look at this stuff. And I would be absolutely want my city and my neighbors cleared, or I would be appalled and furious that my trust in my neighbors had been abused. And it's one of the two things: either the trust of the citizens of Godley has been abused, or there's questions being asked and they need to be cleared. But the bottom line is the unsettledness of this is pretty. It needs to be taken care of.
You're talking about the forensic audit.
There you go. That's the elephant in the room.
Got to be done to find the people's money.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't even have an asset inventory list, right? What in the world? I mean, how do you know what is where? You don't. And your state audit is not going to find that, because if it did, then it would have said, hey, there's no asset inventory list here. It's not comprehensive. We've got to find every dime of the people's money.
Absolutely.
I've said this consistently. I'm saying it again. There will be nothing untoward found except for really bad, horrific management.
Well, and I hope that it's cleared, and it just is that it's just, hey, we don't know how to communicate with people, and we just don't manage books well. I really, I mean, it would, you hope that.
Terrible.
And I'm so tired of hearing, oh, we do a state audit every year. We do.
Come on.
Look,
come on.
If I got
tired news.
If I got 5 jobs and I only give my CPA 2 W-2s, they're only going to work up my taxes on 2 W-2s.
I had a business for 23 years.
Absolutely.
If I wanted to, I could easily tell the county whatever I wanted to tell them, and they would tax me accordingly.
Sure.
I tell them the truth, but I don't have to. It's generic form, man. Yes. Everybody gets it.
My husband is actually an auditor, and I've spoken about this at city council meetings, but an audit is meant to test very few areas. It's just a test. It is not meant to look at all the books. And, my husband audits nonprofits, and they had a case where he had done their audit for 8 years and then accidentally found some fraud that had been going on for 8 years that would never have come up in an audit. So, I mean, an audit's just not meant to catch those things.
Absolutely. And the amount of questions that they have unanswered in Godley, it's
we got to find the people's money. That's
sure.
It. Just got to find it. And then never do this again.
Yeah. Never do it again.
Never
Absolutely.
do it again.
Yeah. And hopefully the right people.
No more fire trucks parked by Chris's Sourdough Bread House.
I agree. And no more one person running budgets all through him without talking to department heads and things like that. So, hey, we're coming up on break here in a minute. Coming back, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the school board stuff, and Joco Radio, the breaking down Godley, and in future episodes, we will be getting into more communities. We'll be back in a moment.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet.
I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Out of dead carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered. Out of dead carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Johnson County, Joco Community Radio. Back with the breakdown, your host, Greg Cooper. Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneIn, joco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844.tex.hail, as in the hail that is wrecking cars, roofs, and everything else right about now this time of year. That is 844.839.4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. All right. Back with Kayla Lane and Scott Yarbrough, new representative governments, unseated some incumbents. So before we move on, I want to talk a little bit about the former chief of police of Godley. For those that don't know, Godley's gone through some police changes, and they've had their chief of police move on to another department. He was there, I believe, 9-10 years, roughly. 10 years. He's recently diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer or colon cancer. It came on really, really quick, and they got a lot of bad news real fast. And we want to think about him for a moment, send out prayers to him. We'll be posting after the show a link to, and he's raising money through a GoFundMe. With the move, he got caught in a really bad spot. It's going to have some substantial medical bills, and our prayers are with him and his wife, Brenda, and family. And we really are pulling for him to just have the best quality of life and hopefully overcome this. God works miracles, and let's hope he can get through that. So let's all think about former Chief Jordan for a minute here, because there's a lot bigger things than local elections and the drama that they cause.
Amen.
So.
I also did share the GoFundMe link in the comments.
Oh, okay, awesome. So it's there now, guys. If you feel inclined, he's a great man. He served the Godley community for a lot of ways. We're trying to get him on the show to talk about some of his service.
Awesome.
And because he really did a lot of good things for Godley. But let's all remember that there's bigger things in local politics. So guys, back to the city and the school board. So we've talked a little bit about the city, school board stuff. So the big bad thing with the school board, two two trustees were up for re-election and 2 challengers for a total of 4 running. You won, Miss Olson didn't, and Craig Stevenson, one of the incumbents, he'll be serving with you. He was reelected, and Mr. Miller was not. One thing that really sucked a lot of the oxygen out of the room in Godley was they were asking for a bond. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the bond and how that framed your campaign and your thoughts on that? Were you for it, against it, etc.?
And how many votes you got? Don't forget. I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I'll just discuss the election turnout really quick because it was huge, both in the city and in the ISD. About 22% for the ISD and about 32% turnout for the city of registered voters. So very thankful that people showed up and cast their ballots. But I took a big leap in actually running a campaign for a school board seat and also opposing the bond. And that was a very risky thing that I did. But it's just something that that really meant a lot to me. I mean, I know financially, and especially as a Godley ISD taxpayer, our taxes are very high in Godley ISD. And just asking for $1 billion bond before this growth comes could do huge or have a huge impact on taxpayers' bills. And so Nova and myself went and block walked against the bond and also to announce our candidacy. And the people made it very clear that they did not want a bond of this magnitude at this time. And so anyways, the turnout, I think the bond was defeated by about 66%. And then I had the most votes of any of the school board trustees. And so, like Greg said, I got one of the seats, and then Craig Stevenson was number 2, and so he was reelected.
You beat him by how much?
About
I think
60,
it was
70 votes.
close,
60, 70?
yeah,
Look at you.
close
60
to
or 70 votes. Yeah. So to put this bond in perspective, so Godley in 2021 called a $168 million bond, and they sold this to the community as they needed this for growth. And there's no question that growth's coming to Godley, and it has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed responsibly. And Godley chose to get involved with a big architecture firm called Huckabee, and they chose to hire a big marketing firm called Mays Media Group. And they basically framed a narrative that the community needed a bunch of money for growth. Traditionally, when these companies begin to get in bed with school districts, they always are trying to front load wants before needs so they can come back and continually ask for this. And Godley did solve some needs with their $168 million bond. They built a new elementary school. It's beautiful. And they built some CTE stuff and a little bit of other stuff. But the main pieces of that bond, and you can't argue this. For anybody that drives through Godley, you're going to see a massive square building being built. That is a competition basketball arena that rivals some small colleges and how nice it's going to be. And a football stadium where they went to TCU, a very affluent private college, to model this after. And originally they were going to ask for a bond in 2026, and 2 years after $168 million bond, they're trying to explain to the community that they need basically close to $1 billion, $1.7 billion with interest for growth. And yes, they have growth. Yes, there's a need for bonds, but the irresponsible nature of what they were doing and how they were selling this to the community and the fear mongering they did, I am so proud that people in Godley took the time to really look at this, because everybody wants what's best for kids. There's no question about that. Everybody wants that. And it's really hard to say no to kid. If I want to send my kid to Harvard, but he can't get a scholarship and I can't afford it, and I send him to OU or UT, that doesn't mean I'm a bad parent. It means I'm working within my means and I'm doing what's the best I can for my children, but I'm not overextending myself. And so what was the responses you got from most of the community on the bond?
Well, whenever I told people how much it was, most of the people I talked to, their jaws hit the floor, because I don't think they really realized how big the bond was. And one thing that I noticed when I went to these bond presentations was the amount of inflation. So it was for future growth. You know, some of these schools weren't going to be needed for 7 to 10 years, but the amount of inflation added on to these costs was about 30% per year. That is a huge inflation number. And so it really wasn't saving us any money to plan for 10 years down the road. It wasn't like, hey, let's lock in a price now for 10 years later. I mean, that's a huge inflation rate, way more than we typically see every year. And so people were shocked by the number. People were also very upset that the district was lying. They were telling people that the bond order calling an election and the ballot language did not mean what it said. And so, you know, I would have had much more respect for the district if they would have just been honest and said, hey, I know this is a lot of money, but we need it for the kids. And these are going to be awesome spaces. And yeah, you're going to pay for it with your taxes, but we really think this is going to be good for the community. I would have had a lot more respect for them if they were just honest about it. And I think that people would have too. And I honestly think that the election turnout would have been different if they were honest, but people couldn't trust them.
I'm going to throw out just a couple numbers here about how this bond. So most districts will put, they'll break up large bonds into propositions and give the community some choices. And they will be very detailed in how they're going to spend this money. $889 million, 1.7 with interest. Godley chose to submit a one-pager. Godley just opened up an elementary school that they say cost $36 million in January. This bond had 3 elementary schools, one for $73 million, one for $88 million, and one for $100 million. They also had a wastewater treatment facility plant and a TxDOT survey. TxDOT and wastewater is municipalities. Scott, that's going to be your lane, buddy. That's not a school district's role to do that stuff. And when you started looking at some of this and these numbers, it just did not make sense how they were justifying it. The need, yes. The growth, yes. But what they were doing and what they were asking for was horribly irresponsible, and it took for granted the care and the trust that parents are putting with their children into these schools. Scott, you were out there block walking as much as anybody else. The bond had to come up. Did you?
Oh yeah.
How did you as a
same thing as
yeah?
if when people talked about it, they had a lot of concerns, and when they said, hey, how much is the bond, and I tell them, it's basically 900 million, 1.7 with interest. Yeah, jaws dropped, and they're like, whoa, and you could see genuine surprise on a lot of people's face, and a lot of people just came right out the door and said, what are you going to do about this bond? I can't do anything about it. You can,
Yeah,
you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
hold your hand and take you to the polls to check a box, right?
Yeah, there was overwhelming disapproval of this thing. Just really, and I walked many miles.
Yeah.
She did, and Kayla and Nova did too. And but you can't. I couldn't tell because I'm just doing the city limits.
Sure, sure.
But it turned out that everybody. It was well over 2-1 smashing.
So Godley's passed 4 bonds. The very first bond they passed was it actually passed with 1 vote. The very first bond. The second bond Godley passed with 1 vote. Wow. The 2015 high school passed with, I believe, 56 votes. So so people that don't realize how big your vote means locally, Godley in 2015 needed a high school, and they passed a $50 million bond for a high school. 56 people voted to add $50 million in debt to the community. In 2021, $168 million bond, 360, I think 366. So 366 people in the entire Godley ISD footprint assessed $168 million of debt to the community. Thinking your vote doesn't matter. We work with some collaboratively with some people that strategize on whether bonds are feasible for a community or not. And there was many bonds that passed or failed within 10 votes. So your vote matters on these people in these smaller communities, and don't forget that. But so this bond had over 1,000 votes against it, and under 500 for it, and that is I really hope. Well, let me ask you, Kayla, how do you hope that the trustees you'll be working with, the superintendent, Rich Deere, and some of the senior administration, how do you hope they look at this?
I really hope that they look at this as a clear message that we need to severely cut back our next bond. I hope that they don't try and mislead the taxpayer more in the next bond election and try to smooth talk their way into a huge bond amount. I think that there needs to be a conservative, small number bond called the next time we call a bond for what is truly needed, which is classrooms. All of the other fluff can come when the growth is here.
Sure. And you say fluff, and that's a harsh term. Godley has neglected its core academics for a very, very long time. Godley loves to tout their athletics, and they are great. They're winning district titles. They're going very far in the playoffs, and they should be very proud of that. Their FFA program is on fire, and a lot of their CTE stuff is really good. But they never talk about reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies, and history, and it's because they're horrible at it. And if you can't do the basics good, you need to reconsolidate and refocus on that before you begin to expand. I was in a special operations unit, and I have 8 deployments, and we had 5 main tasks, and we did nothing until we could master those. And we mastered those basics, and then we let us force project that mastery into other things we did. You can't run from these core issues, and they really, really need to come back and address that, because it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, my school is not as good as I want it to be, but you have to acknowledge that before you can move forward and address it. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I agree with you. They need to sharpen these pencils, and they need to figure out how to do this without spending so much money, and they need to not do it for so long as like a credit card and an equity line of credit, because it's out of control. So other than the bond, since that has sucked up so much oxygen over the last couple of months, what other issues are you concerned about with the school district?
Well, one thing that I heard a lot from parents and teachers and community members was that they were afraid to voice concerns with the district over fear of retaliation or being targeted. So I really would just like to be a voice and a bridge, really, for those people who do have serious concerns, to be able to talk to someone who's going to listen and who's not going to retaliate against, even if it's an opinion that's different than mine or a belief that's different than mine, but really just have a seat at the table to be able to discuss those. And like we talked about earlier, I would love to see public comment in school boards be open. It's only 3 minutes, and there's only a handful of people that show up to speak. And I think anyone that shows up to speak should have the opportunity to do so.
I spent a lot of time in Austin, and they literally will ask you after they're done, is there anybody left that wants to speak on this? The fact that your representatives in Austin are more open than your local school board. They began adding a period early that you had to sign up before. Was it 10 or 15 minutes? Not a policy. They just throw it on the agenda. And numerous people had showed up within 10 minutes. The policy says before, and then they were denied the option. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nova just last school board meeting, which was a week ago, showed up at 5:50 p.m., which is their new. It's not even policy, like you said. The policy says by meeting start time, which is 6 p.m. But she showed up by 5:50, and the speaker cards were already pulled. She found Dr. Deere and asked where the speaker card was. Said that she wanted to speak, and after arguing back and forth with him, he said, "Well, you have to be here at 5:49." And she said, "That's not what you said." So they're just constantly changing the goalpost, and I honestly don't know why they're so afraid to hear from people.
To give people an idea, I think the grossest and most egregious issue with this is I was at one meeting waiting to speak, and there was an event going on downstairs, and Kayla got locked in the stairwell coming up. They had some extra security in because they had students going on. And I told the school board, you have a lady in the hallway locked in who wants to speak. And because they went and unlocked the door for her, but now it was after 5, so she couldn't speak. And they really need to open that up. It would clear so much controversy right out of the gate, because at least you have that voice. If you don't like what you hear, that's one thing, but not being able to be heard, that's a different issue. So Scott, other than the big stuff in the room with the city in regards to having to clean up some of the problems that are magnified, what are some of the bigger long-term things that Godley, because Godley, the city's going through growth too. So what were you hearing out there, and what are your plans for that?
Well, we got to get the municipal master plan going. It's stuck behind red tape again. It's the mayor not, giving the administrator some trouble. So I understand about who can be on it, who shouldn't be on it, etc. So we got to get that going. Planning and Zoning Commission. That was killed in January of 2022. Michael Poppenfuss voted for that. So did Roger Cornelison. Thankfully, Roger's back.
And Michael's still there.
Michael's still there. Okay. Yeah. And they killed it. They killed it. Why would you do that? I mean, that was just silly. So we need to do that immediately. And some community item things that I'd like to do. It'll be a while because there's going to be a lot of mad people for a while. The ones that, not all of them, but a number of the descendants of the people who, ran the town forever, built it up.
Same people were there. We're running it for a long time into the ground. I agree.
But and they're mad at me. But I still want a Founders Day. I want a Founders Day. I want a day where those folks can come in and they can talk about because they should have some pride, not in their behavior, but they should have some pride at what and we should have some respect, I think,
sure,
as to their families and what their families did, their backbreaking work and the blood, the sweat, and the tears to bring all this to where it is now. And let's have one of those, and then let's bring the new people in. Let's build some new traditions with the core of Godley right there. And that way, the mayor's afraid you're going to take his old town Godley away. No, you're not. You just don't have to be afraid of that. We can build new traditions around that core.
Sure. And keeping we want to keep our old town Godley mindset. You have to grow. And you brought up the long range municipal plan for people that don't understand. A tollway went into Godley Chisholm Trail Parkway and brought a lot of growth. And the city, most municipalities will have plans that set out, hey, as we grow, as people move here, as developments come in, this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to account for roads being widened. We're going to account for lights being put in. We're going to account for parks, for green space, for things like when I flush my toilet, where that goes. How does water get to my house? And Godley never, ever even thought about that. Or, I don't want to say woefully neglected it. It's developers love it because they're saving a ton of money. They build and profit more money without some of these restrictions that responsibly manage the how the community grows with a vision for what they want the community. Speaking of some of the growth and how Godley has failed in regards to the municipal plan and how some of their resources aren't capable of managing it, there's some things that are starting to pop up in Texas called municipal utility districts, or MUDs. And we're beginning to see a little bit of that in Godley. And boy, this is going to hit some people that move into Godley are going to be blindsided with this. What can you tell us about MUDs and what you've learned about MUDs through your campaign?
Still trying to learn. But one that came up especially that was passed through and the contract was written by the Godley establishment was a horrible thing to do to a development called Starlight Ranch. And these people have bought $1 million homes, out in that area, and
beautiful on acre
homes.
lots.
Yeah, on acre lots, and they spend a lot of money. They want to come out there and they want to enjoy the scenery. Well, our Godley establishment decided that they were going to back them up to their nice 150-foot wide lots. They're going to put 40-foot wide lots with this municipal utility. You don't do that to people. I mean, you don't do that to people. And so the whole MUD thing is controversial because it's muddy as far as being able to even know what's happening, to how they work. You got legislature involved and they build them out that way. But what happens after that? One guy can come in and set the ad valorem tax rates or the ad valorem all of the tax of the money, the entity,
Sure.
$250 million was on this last one at the Belmont MUD, I think.
So I moved from Colorado, and these type of establishments. So I'm kind of familiar with these, and looking at Godley's, and I've talked about this. You have basically a big plot of land that needs development, and it has to get water and stuff from somewhere. And traditionally, that would be a county, a city service. And this process takes years, and I think we've seen as far back as 2019 with this mud, if I remember right. And the city council allows this stuff to come in. And this is where a master plan can stop some of this or manage this much, much better. So this election on 10/006, somebody parked a trailer a couple months ago, did not hook it up to utilities, and established residency there. That trailer was also the voting location, and a person moved into that trailer, supposedly, who was also the election clerk. And there was one registered voter for Belmont Mud, and that one registered voter voted. I haven't seen the results yet. I haven't seen the mud results. I'm looking for those. I've seen.
Maybe it failed. Right?
Yeah, maybe it failed. Right. But if it passed, it has the potential to add an additional dollar tax per $1 per $100 assessed property value, and millions and millions, 700-800 million, I believe, in bond debt. And this will be used to build where the wastewater goes for the homes that are going to go there. So there's a need for this, but this is something a city should be more involved with than signing off to let private people build this and assess debt and potentially make money off it. And there's a board of directors, and there's very, very well-known, responsible people that were elected to that board of directors.
My Boudreaux, Ricky Road.
There you go. And so you have a real estate agent, and there's another one is Harmon Insurance here in Cleburne and Burleson. They're they're on the board of directors, and they're gonna see this. And so it started out with 1 acre lots, and it got replatted, partially due to no municipal plan to stop it, to 4,000 to 5,000 square foot lots. Now it's 1,600 homes. Some homes are going to have, I believe, 6 and 7 homes in their backyard. So if you have a backyard, you're looking out your backyard, there's going to be 6 homes you look at. And this is just poor planning. And Scott, I really hope that you can figure that out, because I spend a lot of time, and it's complicated. It's complicated.
It is. Here's another problem. Okay, we're talking with Mosaic, which is the municipal master plan company.
Sure.
Guess what? This lady, this contract administrator of this, is going to legislative meetings, and her update last Wednesday is we're fixing to see even more local control get pulled.
Ooh, is that Godley specific, or is that a state thing? State thing.
Austin is just sucking it out.
I agree. I spend a lot of time in their school stuff. It's bad.
Yeah, they got hungry.
Yeah, they've got some guys up there, I guess, a bunch of developers lobbying, and we're going to even have less control. So it's very important we get the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And these lobbyists really take away representative government.
Yeah. And Kayla, you and I spent a lot of time monitoring Austin for the school board stuff. People need to understand the importance of these lobbyists and what they're doing at the Austin level. And here again, we're winding down. Scott Yarbrough, congratulations. Kayla Lane, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Godley ISD, sharpen that pencil, come back with a responsible bond, and let's move forward and get some growth in the community. Thank you. The Breakdown. We'll be back with more next week.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a